Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News, reaching you live from our Lagos studio. I am Abosedi Omowi. In our top stories tonight. Many thanks for joining us. Now to details of the news. Finally and at last, the 2016 budget has been passed into law. Members have throughout the day's plenary been deliberating on the various aspects of the bill. The Senate passed 6,60,677,358,277 naira. This figure emerging from a reduction of 17,2,641,773 naira. Jamil Afegua reports on the proceedings.
There wasn't much to debate on, as many of the members have been waiting to go through the clause-by-clause consideration. The chairman of the Appropriation Committee presented the report, but members highlighted some discrepancies by the MDAs.
Thank you very much. As follows. 1. The appropriation bill, which is the first by the President administration, was not presented on time to the National Assembly. This subsequently affected the timely passage of the bill.
In preparing the bill, the Appropriation Committee adopted a benchmark of $38 per barrel on crude oil based on the recommendations of the Senate on the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper.
The 2016 appropriation bill contained a number of omissions, particularly in the area of personnel costs. Though the Appropriation Committee has filled some of the gaps, there are many outstanding cases which could raise serious
observations contained in this paper on the inconsistencies, the delays, and shoddy jobs done on the budget by the different MDAs.
President of the Senate, Kola Saraki, putting the gavel down for the approval and all members for what he termed a thorough job of articulating a document that will put smiles on the faces of Nigerians.
A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation and the total sum of 6,077,680,000,000 naira only, of which 351,370,000,000 naira only is for statutory transfers, 1,475,320,000,000 naira only is for debt service, 2,648,600,000,000 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 1,845,540,000,000 naira only, inclusive of 157,150,000,000 naira capital expenditure and statutory transfer, and 86 billion naira as interest on capital loans is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2016, third reading.
The Senate had observed that the bill, which is seeking to stimulate the economy, had a high ratio of 30.70% between the recurrent and the capital components. The bill also contains a number of omissions, particularly in the area of personnel cost. Issues like this necessitated the shifts in dates all this while. Jamil Afegwa, CoreTV News, Abuja.
In a related development, the House of Representatives finally passed the 2016 budget despite the initial bottlenecks and the issues of overpadding that characterized it. The House unanimously passed the budget, having gone through thorough clause-to-clause adoption of the bill by members as passed by the Appropriation Committee.
While reading out the figures of what is available in the Federation account for sharing by all the tiers of government for the month of March, Chairman of the meeting and Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Finance says the revenue profile of the nation went down by 20 billion naira due to the volatility of the international oil market.
The net statutory allocation amount comes to 264.238 billion and is distributed as follows. Federal government 127.2 billion naira.
He added that a total sum of 64.28 billion naira was made from the value-added tax within the same period. The excess crude account also made a marginal increase to $2.259 billion.
When we add the exchange gain of 3.48 billion and the NNPC refund of 6.33 billion, we have a grand total of 345.095 billion.
The committee also says there are no controversy over the NNPC account. The next meeting is slated for between the 20th and 21st of April in Abuja. Kazim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Now, the three tiers of government shared over 345 billion naira as the nation's revenue declined by 20 billion naira in the month of February. The Federation Account Allocation Commission says this decline is due to the volatility on the international oil market. Correspondent Kazim Kasali has more in this report. We'll bring you that in our subsequent bulletins. Now, talking about other reports, the former governor of Kogi State, Idris Wada, has tendered over 8,000 documents as evidence at the State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Abuja to prove his petition against the election of Governor Yahaya Bello. Wada, who contested the governorship election on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, and others are challenging the election that produced Bello of the All Progressives Congress. Judiciary correspondent Basil Okafor report that the tribunal adjourned to enable Wada call his witnesses.
These are the alleged electoral materials used by the Independent National Electoral Commission in the conduct of the governorship election in the state. The petitioner wants the tribunal to admit the documents as evidence to prove his case against Governor Bello. At the resumed hearing of the petition, Wada, through his team of lawyers, applied to amend the listed order upon which the documents will be admitted. But defense counsels, however, oppose the amendment, arguing that since the documents have been tendered, there is no need to alter them.
In fact, we have over 8,000 documents that we want to tender. Some used for the election of 25th November 2015, and then some for the supplementary election.
The presiding judge, Justice Alima Muhammadu, has adjourned the matter till March 13 for hearing.
In other matters from the courts, the trial of former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, was on Wednesday stalled due to the inability of the prosecutors to produce him in court. The erstwhile security chief was alleged to have refused to appear in court. At the resumed hearing, the prosecuting counsel, Rotimi Jacobs, said Dasuki refused to be in court on the grounds that his lawyers Joseph Daudu and Ahmed Raji would not be in court, adding that he tried to convince the defendants to come to court and see how the proceedings would be conducted, but to no avail. Jacobs urged the court to commence trial in the absence of the defendants, but the defense counsel, Wale Balogun, urged Justice Baba Yusuf to disregard the claim of the prosecution. The presiding judge said the case cannot commence without the defendant and adjourned the case to April the 6th. In other reports, the withdrawal of Justice Abdul Kafarati of the Federal High Court in the unending drama of the Senate President Bukola Saraki facing trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal on the alleged false assets declaration leaves many questions for answer. On our flagship program, Court Digest, analysts examined the intrigues and revelations surrounding the Senate President. Our correspondent has more.
The alleged false asset declaration of the Senate President Bukola Saraki has been receiving reactions from Nigerians, with the latest withdrawal of Justice Abdul Kafarati of the Federal High Court over alleged 2 billion naira bribe that was traced to his account. However, trailing on our flagship program Court Digest, analysts on the show staged a debate between the rule of law and the delay in justice administration of the case.
The day that judges, because of newspaper reports, start getting intimidated enough to submit their resignation, that day I will shake my head for the judicial system of that jurisdiction.
As a result of certain publications, he feels that his integrity is at stake, and it is important that he maintains his integrity. It is perception. Okay. He has the discretion by himself. Which is very, very correct, to decide whether or not to continue with the case.
Okay. Is the case of Bukola Saraki a witch hunt?
He has a fundamental right to react to that. If he does not react to that, if you do not provide him that opportunity of react to that, everything you are doing is standing on nothing and would crumble. That is the technicality that people do not understand, and it is even more substance than the substance itself.
May God let this persecution go to the ultimate end, but within the context of the law, and may God let there be conviction. Because once Saraki is convicted, for God's sake, I know that some of the people who are in favor today, even including the president, the tenure will come to an end.
With the disparity in stance, it later became confrontational on the show.
I've deliberately, if you notice, since you came, I've deliberately allowed you to speak more. But if you don't want this thing, I can excuse you.
I appreciate it if you stop derailing my train of thoughts.
If your thought cannot hold sway when you are speaking, then you don't have a train of thought.
One thing we have to understand is that in this case, Saraki has already denied that he did not commit the offense. Whether it is Wisconsin or not, he has to face the justice. He has to face the law.
If Saraki has allegedly committed the offense, why in 2003 and 2011? Because we said this alleged declaration was done during that period. What was the CCT doing during that period that they could not call him for questioning or written to him that this is what you have committed?
Wherever the pendulum swings, it is expected that the process of equity, fairness, and good conscience will play its role in the administration of justice.
Meanwhile, the Civil Liberties Organization has expressed its faith in Nigeria's judiciary and ongoing trial of the Senate President Bukola Saraki at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. CLO President Igo Akerega, while briefing journalists in Lagos, however, warns the federal government to be cautious not to make erroneous judgments as it embarks on its anti-corruption crusade. Akin Obakeye brings us more.
The same organization said in 2003, I didn't force to declare. There's a letter from the organization clearing me for doing that. 2007, the same organization said my forms were okay. 2011, the same organization said my forms are okay.
Nigeria's number 3 citizen, Bukola Saraki, who is facing a 13-count charge ranging from anticipatory declaration of assets to false declaration of assets acquired while in office as the governor of Kwara State. In recent times, the judiciary has come under fire as some of its officers have been allegedly found in one complicity or another, the hunters somewhat becoming the hunted. Despite the intrigues and twists being witnessed as President Muhammadu Buhari's anti-graft war rages on, Civil Liberties Organization, CLO, says it stands with the judiciary, declaring that its faith in the system remains unshaken.
Against any other interest, the interests of Nigeria ought to take precedence over what any individual, no matter how highly placed in society they may be. It is a clear danger to us as a people if the powers that be insist on procuring judgments that run counter to justice and good conscience.
CLO also identifies the President of the Senate as a principal actor in the fight against corruption, urging him to seek justice if necessitated.
Let the Senate President by all means be allowed to ventilate his rights through all legal options, while the judges must be encouraged to stick to the fine lines of the law devoid of external influences. It is only by this way that justice will be done and Nigeria and Nigerians' interest will be served.
To rid the country of corruption and its elements, relevant authorities will need to work within the confines of the law, devoid of external influences, in the best interest of Nigeria. Akin Obakeye, CoreTV News, Lagos.
You're still watching CoreTV News, CoreTV Primetime News. We'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you more reports. Do stay with us.
Mommy, more. Where would I be without you? Now you be my best friend. Now you be my sister. Now you be my mentor, and you are still my mama. Mama na kay nakatay. Kibani doya de wake. Mama no lazy. You help me reach my big mama. Now you wash my infant head. Oh, everything for you I go do, mama.
Show your sweet and caring mother how much she means to you. Celebrate her with the special Peak Packs. Peak, it's in you.
Join the Airtel family today and get 5 times the value of every recharge. Recharge with *555* PIN hash on the Airtel network and feel at home.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
So glad to have you back. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. Let's take another look at our top stories. For more on our top stories, all the news and information, do visit our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/CoreTV News. And on Twitter, our handle is @CoreTV News NG. Also on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV, leave a space news. Now, reactions have continued to trail the remand of the managing director of Lekki Gardens, Richard Young, and the contractor handling the project involving the collapsed building at Lekki or Dauphin Taiwo, as against the punishment meted out to the pastor of the Synagogue Church of All Nations located at number 1 Shegun Irefin Street, Ikotunegbe Road, Lagos, Temitope Joshua, whose church building collapsed in 2014, killing at least 115 people, some of whom are against the treatment. Some of whom are foreign worshippers. Now, as the court orders Young and Dauphin to be kept in custody for 30 days while the police carries out its investigation, Nigerians are asking why TB Joshua walks freely and have not spent a full day with the police, despite what they believe is higher gravity of destruction to lives and property. Victoria Solomon completes the story as presented from our studios.
On September 12, 2014, the Synagogue Church of All Nations collapsed, killing at least 115 people. 2 years on, the case still drags on. While it has been heard by the court, Nigerians say the pastor has never had to be remanded by security forces. Placed side by side the Lekki Gardens tragedy that happened recently, in which no fewer than 30 persons died, Nigerians believe the two similar cases are not being handled in the same manner. The Lagos State government, however, believes some factors are responsible for the difference in investigation and prosecution procedures in the two similar cases.
The two cases that you have cited are not exactly the same thing. And you recall that this present administration inherited the synagogue church issue because it didn't happen in our administration.
However, a legal practitioner totally disagrees.
I think that there's some discrepancy going on there. I don't think the commissioner would say that there is so much difference in it. Neither will he have said that the governors are different, because government is continuum.
It believes that the Lagos State government knows what right steps to take within the ambit of the law in both matters.
I want to believe that what the Commissioner for Information meant was that the difference in the two is the fact that one is direct, the other is indirect. The cases are very similar in nature. It has to do with collapse of buildings.
In the end, Commissioner for Information urges Lagosians to allow for proper police investigation.
It is the police, not the Lagos State government, that sought a remand order in court. We should allow the police to do its job. If the case requires further investigation, we believe that the police is up to the task.
Nigerians wait to see if their insinuation of preferential treatment will be taken seriously and addressed quickly by the state government.
Meanwhile, the Islamic movement in Nigeria says it has withdrawn completely from appearance before the Commission of Inquiry set up by the Kaduna State government to look into the clashes between the Nigerian Army and the IMN in Zaria last December. Lead counsel to the IMN, Festus Okoye, says the legal team will not allow itself to be used to legitimize a position and agenda against the leader of the movement, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky. And in other news, the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, John Odigio-Yegun, says President Muhammadu Buhari will soon brief the nation on the actual amount that has been recovered from corrupt politicians. Odigio-Yegun made the disclosure after a national caucus meeting of the party at the presidential villa. State House correspondent Abiola Oluwole completes the story.
One after the other, leaders of the ruling APC arrived at the Aso Rock Villa for the National Caucus meeting scheduled for 8 p.m. The behind-the-curtain deliberations ended at 10 past 11 p.m. Speaking to journalists after the meeting, the national chairman of the party says the gathering was called to address party matters. He thereafter hinted that President Buhari will soon address the nation on the amount of recovered funds so far from corrupt politicians.
You don't just recover money and spend it. You recover money and it goes into your revenue, and it will be deployed appropriately with the necessary legislative approval, as and when necessary. Eventually, Mr. President said he will brief the nation on how much has been recovered, and that will happen.
As these party leaders depart the seat of power, assisting President Buhari in timely actualization of the change mantra, according to political observers, is the main expectation of the electorate. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Abiola Oluwole reporting for CoreTV News.
Now, issues surrounding the electoral process once again top the agenda as experts meet to brainstorm on the issues and challenges of information and communication technology and electronic voting. With the theme ICT and electronic voting, issues and challenges, guest lecturer Surendra Thakur says e-voting is becoming a technology of choice, but that concerns remain. Correspondent Kozim Kasali has more in this report. We'll bring you that later. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmoud Yakubu, has condemned the violence that characterized the legislative elections held in River State over the weekend. which led to the death of a National Youth Service Corps member, Samuel Okonta. Yakubu, during a condolence visit to the Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, Brigadier General Johnson Olamumi, notes that the needless killing causes the Commission so much pain. The electoral umpire chief adds that the Commission would fully participate in honoring the sacrifice of late Samuel Okonta and other members of the NYSC who may have suffered injury or even worse in the course of election duty in Nigeria in any way the NYSC considers appropriate. In another development, the INEC chief announced the offer of automatic employment to an ex-National Youth Service Corps member, Adegba Daniel, who served in Yobe State between the year 2010 and 2011 and lost his eyesight due to injuries sustained while participating as an ad hoc staff in the 2011 general elections. In his response, Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Johnson Olamumi, noted that he has set up a committee of inquiry into the death of Okonta and further calling on the government of Rivers State to do everything possible to pursue the incident to a logical conclusion to ensure that those who killed this innocent young man are brought to book. And in other news, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has debunked the reports trending on social media over a planned attack of corps members in Tai local government area by thugs of the PDP, describing it as unfounded and contrived by mischief makers and the All Progressives Congress. Wike says the rumor is being peddled by members of the opposition APC to scare corps members from participating in the rescheduled rerun elections in Tai local government area. In a statement, the senior special assistant to the governor on social media, Oriah St. Franklin, accused the APC of being behind the gales of violence in the aborted rerun elections in Tai local government area on Saturday. The statement points out that the PDP is not a violent political party, but a party of peace and unity, one that believes in democracy and the comprehensive development of Nigeria. And in other news now, management of the Federal Polytechnic Ede in Osun State has directed all students to vacate the school premises as non-academic staff union NASU threatens to go on rampage. NASU has been joined by the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Polytechnic, SANIP, pointing out that the planned protest is to get management to accede to demands relating to the cut in their salaries. Rashid reports.
The first semester examination for the 2015-2016 session at the Federal Polytechnic Ede in Osun State is on. And while students arrived to sit for their papers, they were greeted with a locked gates and a near-empty school with security men on standby. The management of the institution had ordered that exams be halted and all students vacate the premises and the hostels with immediate effect, following agitations by members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Polytechnic and the Non-Academic Staff Union, Ede branch, overcut in their salaries and some sundry levies.
We started this morning when everybody woke up from those steps, and they said the school is going to have an instant strike. So we all moved to the school gate.
While the chairman of both NASU and SANIP alleged they held several meetings with the rector, Patrick Hussein, and the management, which all ended deadlocked, hence the decision to protest. The Polytechnic's public relations officer, Kazim Oyede, thinks otherwise.
This time around, we don't have a council in place, and the rector is the chief executive. There is no one to call him to order. So we felt the best thing we should do is to demonstrate within the school. And unfortunately, it was about to be hijacked by the students. So we have to step down our action.
Severally, we have met with them. We even dialogue, we even lobby, we did a lot of things, humanly possible at least to get them convinced. But they were confused. And the union has nothing to do than to take it up.
The reason why they locked the gate is best known to them. But on the management angles, we sat down with them yesterday. They held a meeting and they reached an agreement yesterday till around 5:30. That one I'm aware of.
Meanwhile, students appeal for a quick resolution to enable them wrap up the session as and when due.
We try to employ the management and the union, SANIP and NASU,
to also be considerable on whatever demands or whatever resolution they made from the roundtable meeting.
The next thing we have asked them to go home for Easter break. After Easter, we'll come them back. They'll come and continue the exam. Before that time, the management and the two unions have sat down at the roundtable and decide way forward.
As of now, the school remains shut. Students have vacated hostels on campus and lecture rooms placed under lock and key.
Still on education, the Yaba College of Technology has expelled 6 final-year students for presenting fake national diploma and national certificate of education results for admission. The expulsion notice is contained in a circular signed by the Deputy Registrar of the college, Taiwo Obadimo, and made available to journalists in Lagos on Wednesday. The circular discloses that the authorities of the institution considered the report on verification of the affected student results and found them culpable. The affected students were in the Department of Food Technology, Mathematics and Integrated Science, Physics Education, Estate Management and Valuation, Industrial Technical Education, and Industrial Maintenance Engineering. The Nigeria Police Force has been holding its second quiz competition for secondary schools to commemorate the 2016 Police Week. 5 participating schools took part in the competition, and the wife of the president has been using it to call on Nigerians to remember the yet-to-be-found Chibok secondary school girls. Bukola Fene report that the quiz is intended to stimulate the youth in pursuing a career in the police force.
Wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, represented by Dolapo Ushibajo, wife of the vice president, declaring the quiz competition open, used the opportunity to remember the Chibok girls who are still missing. She says the quiz will inculcate in the children the culture of diligence and obedience to constituted authority.
I can already identify some of the lessons a competition like this teaches, and I'm sure there are more, much more. One of these lessons is a lesson on being a team player, the ability to work with others, work within a group for a common purpose.
Executive Secretary, National University Commission, Olubumi Okoje, says over 10 million children are out of school in Nigeria. He condemns the high rate of private school, which he says are affecting the standard of education in the country.
I say that what I see today is what I've always complained about. We are told that South of the Sahara will have more than 50 million students out of school. And today, 10 million of those children are in Nigeria.
President, Police Officers' Wife Association, Agarizi Arise, reiterates the association has been contributing to different sectors of the economy. She further states that this is making the group show special interest in education.
If we do not mentor them the way it should be, we teach and teach, we can also live it, so that with each gift that we give to them as parents, especially as mothers, we do the best, which of course is good enough.
Authorities of the winning schools at the quiz competition, Police Secondary School Ukana, says the diligent preparation they underwent brought them the victory.
In general, we feel overexcited. Me personally, I'm very happy, because ever since we started this, we've been preparing. Even when we started exams, we were omitted from the exams practice, going to classes to read. We were always staying separately to read. So
the Police National Quiz Competition will no doubt engage the youth in enhancing the public image of the force.
Congratulations to the winners. In other reports, countries in the West Africa sub-region have been challenged to promote trade among member countries in order to build capacity and sustain the economy of the entire continent. While they are at it, experts suggest government at all levels confront headlong societal challenges that hamper economic growth. Sarah Ayeko has more.
Research shows low commercial activities among African countries, especially in West Africa, with the continent's trade interactions standing between 10 to 12%. Bad road networks, epileptic power supply, corruption in governance, and next to zero infrastructure accounts for poor economic growth in the ECOWAS sub-region. especially Nigeria.
Not so clear right now about what the strategic vision is. I think we are worrying too much about appearing well in the international press. That's good, but we need to back it up with a product. What is the product we are developing as a country?
Transport and what is called supply chain logistics is what needs to be understood at a government level, that they put the bulk infrastructure, road, rail, ports and harbors, if they put them in the right places, economic activity will develop around the economic hub.
With so much dependence on foreign direct investment, leaders across the different nations will need to create a more conducive atmosphere for local investors to grow Africa's economy.
African countries have to do things with each other for their currencies to become the currencies of exchange. And eventually, they should agree what currency would be the common currency. Now, you only need 5 leading economies to use one currency, and you've resolved the currency problem. And that's how it can be done.
Much has been said about diversifying and reviving the Nigerian economy and Africa at large. One can only hope that the federal government will implement its lofty agenda to rescue the dwindling economy, a move that will impact on wealth growth for even Africa at large. Sarah Ayeku, CoreTV News, Lagos.
And in other business news, the Lagos State government has partnered Kebbi State for the establishment of a commodity value chain that will give a quantum leap to food processing, production and distribution. Speaking at the official signing of a memorandum of understanding between the two states, Governor Akinwumi Ambode said the partnership is aimed at bringing about national food sufficiency and food security, as well as creating employment and wealth distribution for the benefit of both states and the nation in general. He discloses that the partnership would bring an end to the era of imported rice in the country, noting that there is no doubt about the economic prowess of the country to produce rice locally. Governor Ambode further pointed out that the partnership signaled the commencement of a new beginning of cooperation and common sense revolution, which is in line with the change mantra of the All Progressives Congress. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. We take another break now, and when we come back, we'll bring you updates on the Brussels attack.
Join the Airtel family today and get 5 times the value of every recharge. Recharge with *555 PIN hash on the Airtel network and feel at home.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Thanks for being there. Now to report from beyond the shores. A massive manhunt is underway for a suspect seen with 2 supposed suicide bombers shortly before they struck Brussels' Zaventem airport in the first of 2 attacks that also hit the city's metro, killing at least 30 and wounding more than 250. Belgian federal prosecutor Frederick van Leeuw says that Brahim El Bakroui was part of the twin suicide bombings at the Zaventem airport, while his brother Khalid blew himself up on a metro carriage at Malbik station. A CCTV image from the Brussels airport shows the suspect of the Brussels airport attack and Brahim, pictured in the middle of a surveillance photo at the airport, had been identified using fingerprint records. Van Leeuw says the second airport suicide bomber on the left of the picture has not been identified, and the third suspect who left the airport before the explosions is also not yet identified and remained on the run. Now, Yemen's warring parties have agreed to a nationwide cessation of hostilities starting midnight on April the 10th. The UN Special Envoy Ismail Ould Sheikh Ahmed, who disclosed this, said a new round of peace talks between the rival sides will take place in Kuwait beginning on April the 18th. There have already been several failed attempts to defuse the conflict in Yemen, which has drawn in regional rivals Saudi Arabia and Iran and triggered a humanitarian crisis in the country. The UN envoy says the face-to-face talks in Kuwait will focus on a series of issues, including the withdrawal of military forces, the handover of heavy weaponry, interim security arrangement, and the restoration of state institutions. Al-Sheikh Ahmed says the talks aim to reach an agreement to end the conflict and allow the resumption of political dialogue, leading to a peaceful transition based on a regional peace initiative. And another report from outside Nigeria, UN envoy to Syria Bashar al-Jafari says no foreign power should be allowed to interfere in the ongoing Syria peace talks in Geneva. The government's negotiators' comment comes as the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrives in Moscow for a meeting with President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Thursday. Jafari, who serves as Syria's ambassador to the UN in New York, says believing that Moscow can pressure its ally in Damascus amounts to a misreading of the situation. Russia has repeatedly said that only the Syrian people can decide Assad's fate at the ballot box and has bristled at any talk of removing the Syrian government. Negotiations in Geneva, entering a 10th day on Wednesday, were rattled last week by Russia's surprise decision to withdraw most of its troops from Syria, a move analysts say could help peace effort by weakening Assad's position. And our Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has expressed hope that the United States will continue to support Israel at the United Nations by opposing all resolutions on the creation of a Palestinian state. Addressing the annual conference of the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, Netanyahu disclosed his readiness to immediately resume direct negotiations with the Palestinians. Netanyahu says a Security Council resolution to pressure Israel would further harden Palestinian positions and thereby could actually kill the chances of peace for many, many years. And in sports news tonight,
power style, and that's what he delivered.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria are training in Kaduna ahead of the very crucial first leg of their face-off with seven-time African kings Egypt on Friday, March the 25th. As a Tuesday evening, all the players except Elderson Echiejile were under the watchful eyes of coach Samson Siasia. Interim coach of the Super Eagles, Siasia says he will not give the Pharaohs of Egypt room to operate during the Friday match between the two teams. The Eagles would, however, have to adapt to the harsh weather conditions in Kaduna to actualize their dream of displacing Pharaohs, which currently top Group G with 6 points. Meanwhile, the management of Rangers International Football Club of Enugu has revealed plans to seek financial assistance from its foreign-based fans in its bid to end the club's 32-year league trophy drought. Rangers General Manager Paul Chibuzo notes that the team hopes to win a ticket for Continental Cup campaigns by augmenting the grants from the Enugu state government with funds it will generate from its fans the world over. The last time Rangers FC won the Nigeria Professional Football League title was in 1984, about 32 years ago. One of the frontline clubs in the Nigeria Professional Football League, Rangers FC made its debut in the year 1972. And now, Nigeria Under-23 interim coach Fatai Mo has showered praises on the new invited players to the Nigeria Under-23 camp for their sense of professionalism and dedication as the Dream Team go up against their Brazilian counterparts in a much-awaited international friendly in Victoria on Thursday. Amao has taken charge of this trip to Brazil as head coach. Samson Siasia is working with the Super Eagles for the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying matches against Egypt in a few days. The former international midfielder also commends the facilities provided by the NFF and the organizers for the team in Brazil. The match will take place on Thursday, starting from 7 p.m. Brazil time and 11 p.m. Nigerian time. And in sport, Belgium's friendly against Portugal next week has been moved from Brussels to the Portuguese city of Leiria after more than 30 people were killed in attacks in the Belgian capital. The match was called off for security reasons before Portugal's Football Association offered an alternate venue. The game will be played next Tuesday, 1945 GMT, as initially scheduled. Next week's match is the second Belgium friendly in succession that has not gone ahead as scheduled. In November, the match against Spain in Brussels was called off following the Paris atrocities, which killed 130 people. This week's round of international friendlies are warm-up games before Euro 2016 in France. UEFA says it would continue to monitor the level of risk for the tournament, but adds there were no plans to play matches behind closed doors. Martin Cullen, UEFA Operations Director, told BBC Sport that fan zones around the tournament where large numbers of football supporters gather to watch games on large screens will still be set up. That's it on sports and on CoreTV Primetime News today. Before we go, another look at our top stories. Thank you so much for being a part of CoreTV Primetime News today. I am Abosedi Mowi. Have a pleasant evening.